Development of an item bank for assessing generic competences in a higher education institute, a Rasch modeling approach. In recent years, the need for higher education institutes to provide credible indicators of generic competencies has increased rapidly. A higher education institution in Hong Kong launched a project to develop an instrument to assess students' achievements and identified 7 generic intended learning outcomes based on its own mission statement and strategic targets. They are problem solving, critical thinking, creative thinking, effective communication, SI skills, ethical decision making, and global perspective. However, no existing instrument assesses all 7 generic intended learning outcomes simultaneously in one test set. Therefore, Dr. Chin Xie and her students conducted a project to design a reliable, valid, and accessible instrument for students to self-assess their achievements in all 7 generic intended learning outcomes along their learning trajectory from entry to university to graduation and beyond. An item bank approach based on Rasch modeling was adopted. The researchers set up the Rasch model-based measure construction through 4 steps: construct definition, item design, outcome space, and measurement model. In the construct definition phase, the researchers created a clear construct map that defined 8 generic intended learning outcomes used in the item base. Next, the descriptors for students at different performance levels were written to guide item design. For instance, in the case of problem solving, 4 descriptors were written to describe performance from beginner to advanced levels. Items were then written for each level in the form of performance tasks or attitude statements. The item bank contained a total of 425 items. Item validation consisted of the last 2 building blocks: piloting the instrument and using the Rasch model to calibrate the measures. The 425 items were assembled in parallel test forms and administered to a large student sample. The data were analyzed to examine the psychometric properties of each measure and to calibrate the items. Finally, cross-sectional comparisons of years 1-4 students were conducted to explore possible changes to the 7 GILOs over time, and multidimensional analyses were conducted to explore the relationships between the constructs. To assess the distribution of item difficulty, a right map was plotted for each item set. On the left side, the distribution of students was represented, while on the right side, the items were placed on the same logit scale. As depicted in the map, the range of item difficulties adequately covered the full spectrum of student abilities, from the lowest to the highest. To further support the construct validity of the instrument, the mean difficulties of the items were plotted at each performance level and the results were satisfactory. The results demonstrated that the item bank had high reliability and good construct validity. Based on the data from cross-sectional comparisons, the researchers found that Year 1 students exhibited higher abilities across all 8 constructs compared to Years 2 and 3 students. Notably, a rising trend was observed in the final year for all 6 constructs related to skills and competence, although only 3 were statistically significant. When comparing bachelor degree students and 3-year higher diploma students who did not meet the admission requirements for bachelor degree programs, researchers found that the higher diploma group reported lower self-rated performance than the bachelor degree group in the constructs related to academic achievements. Surprisingly, no significant differences were observed in the constructs that are typically not assessed by academic achievement tests. Based on the correlation analysis, the researchers found that the 3 thinking skills exhibited higher correlations with each other compared to their correlations with the other constructs, which confirmed the researchers' expectations regarding the 3 major blocks: higher order thinking skills, communication skills, and attitudes. The researchers suggested that universities can use instruments such as the one to systematically collect feedback from students, graduates, and their employers to ensure that teachers and students engage in the teaching and learning of generic competences.